What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zorich, and we got a very, very exciting day today because not only are we talking Bad Batch, but we're talking X-Men 97, and they dropped an absolutely wild episode for us, and we are in the midst, as we're recording, CinemaCon is just unveiling tons and tons of stuff at the Disney and Marvel Studios panel right now. And so we'll briefly touch on that, but for the most part, covering the Bad Batch, covering X-Men 97 today, joined as always by my co-host and good buddy, Adam Blevins. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing okay. A little tired, a little overwhelmed, but now I'm trying to give myself tunnel vision on this rundown that you gave us because I'm so excited after reading and hearing all this stuff that they just said about Deadpool that premiered at CinemaCon. I'm so jealous of everybody that was in that room for that 9 minutes, but I'm trying to reel myself back in and remember that, hey, we're not here to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine for an hour and a half, because I could definitely do that if we want to, change the schedule or anything. But no, I'm super excited to be here and to talk about some Bad Batch and some X-Men with y'all.
Like you said, 9 minutes of footage for those at CinemaCon of X-Men, of Deadpool and Wolverine. They got Anthony Mackie teasing Captain America Brand New World with some footage of Thunderbolt Ross, Harrison Ford in the new role. Florence Pugh was on stage talking about the Thunderbolts. And apparently Thunderbolts, it's Thunderbolts with an asterisk, and we're not going to know what that means until after the movie comes out. What do you mean by that, Kevin Feige? Crazy stuff going on over there. But like you said, we're here to talk about some Star Wars and some X-Men 97. And to help us do so, we have a wonderful guest, co-host of the Geeky Waffle, Candace. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. And wow, what an X-Men episode to guest on.
No kidding. It was a whirlwind. Some are saying one of the very best pieces of X-Men media we've ever gotten. Some are devastated and don't want to watch the rest of the series. Shout out to our fellow agent CJ Dar. We'll touch on why he's devastated, but as a Gambit fan, for those who have seen the episode, you will find out why. Give us a little, we had your co-host Arzu on the pod last week at the Geeky Waffle. Give us a little background of what you do there.
Yeah, so I'm the network producer. I created it with my friends because one, we're very geeky, and two, as a way to keep in touch. And also we wanted to have more women's voices talking about nerd stuff and women of color too. So we created it for that. And yeah, we have a Star Wars podcast. We have two Star Wars podcasts. We have a Space Waffles. We have What's Glup, where you talk about your favorite Glup shittos. We have Straight Outta Home Video, where we watched all the direct-to-home Disney movies, and we watched all those. I've seen every single one now. Now we're doing DCOM, Disney Channel Original Movies. And yeah, we have a Stargate podcast and a couple others. So yeah, we cover a lot of things.
Some wonderful content and some wonderful reasons behind starting it. So make sure you check out the Geeky Waffle. And I love the straight-to-home videos thing. It's always tough when you try and go back and watch one and be like, I loved it as a kid. And then it starts with a content warning. There are depictions in this that are not great. They don't fully translate to the times now. We didn't know about it then. We do now. I tried watching Aladdin and the King of Thieves, the third Aladdin, because it had such a fond place in my heart from when I was, 5 years old. And then looking back on it as an adult, I was like, this is not what I remembered it being. But some of those home video movies are so wild and so enjoyable as well.
On a lighter note, you bring up King of Thieves, and we have a joke that Aladdin's dad is the hottest Disney dad. So I just had to put that out there because Seam can get it.
The hottest
Those are the
Disney
things we
dad.
talk about.
And that's why you got to check into Straight Outta Home Video. But let's dive into some Star Wars Bad Batch before we start talking about X-Men 97. Candace, what have you thought about the season of the Bad Batch as a whole so far?
Oh, I think it's the best yet. I know we only have 3 seasons, but I feel like every season has gotten considerably better, and I am very attached to them, and I'm very scared.
It is definitely, it's been a dark season, and going forward, it does kind of worry about where it could lead them. Adam, what did you think about the newest episode, episode 12?
You know, you and I were talking about this before we recorded, but I'm of a mind with everybody else. This was the best season by far, but I will say I've loved every episode to this point. They've been all either like 4.5 or 5.5, like 4.5 or 5s out of 5 to me. They've all been pretty much perfect or so close to it as to be indiscernible. But this was, I still think this was a good episode, and I had fun with this episode. But it is my least favorite of the series thus far, or like of this season. Excuse me, thus far.
It feels
And
like
not
a memento. Oh, sorry.
no, you're fine.
It's like a
great point.
memento. Yeah, the memento like stopped it. We were going like we were getting somewhere, and then it feels like, oh, they have to do another side quest. We were getting to this
that's
mystery.
exactly my right. That's exactly the kind of like my reservations with it. And I know we'll talk about those specifically like a little bit later, but it's kind of like, wait, this is what there's 3 episodes left in the series. Like this has been building up to something so grand and so spectacular. And with 3 episodes left, this is what we're doing. This seems like it should have been like episode 4, like 3 or 4 or 5, not 12, 13, something like that. So I know we'll talk about the specifics later, but I think this was a good episode of TV in a vacuum, but definitely my least favorite of the season so far.
It very much felt like we need them to get from point A to point B, but we don't really know how we're going to get them there yet. So we're going to rely on a couple big reveals and then give another one of these side quest stories like like you guys both said. Candace, what did you think about episode 12, The Juggernaut?
No, I completely agree. Like it did feel like the weakest of the episodes so far, because I feel like every episode in season 3 has been very like telling the story what the Empire's doing. And we're getting bits and bits of it along the way. And it really felt, and the last 2 episodes, because we had 2 episodes last week, that really felt like we were getting somewhere. And then we only have a few moments of Omega and Hemlock. And you're like, I want to know more about what's going on there.
And the episode begins with Omega and Hemlock and her being captured by the Empire, her being reunited with her sister, finding out Nala Se is in captivity. It's all very captivating stuff. And then it just kind of goes sideways after that. But like we let us know some, again, big reveals, important information. Crosshair reveals he has a bit of a secret. There was more than he was leading on. He has information of how they could get back to Tantus. Now, maybe this will be something that plays into his story of he's finally come clean with everything, and now his hands aren't going to shake, and he's going to be able to take the shot. You know, I don't know if it's going to relate to that, but it seemed like that was supposed to be a bigger reveal than it was. Adam, what did you think about that?
Well, that whole scene, it just kind of felt like it rushed through that whole, but like even from the Omega stuff into this, it just seemed like we were moving really, really fast because like I was kind of expecting, and maybe this was wrong of me to expect this, but when last episode, when it ended last week, you know, Crosshair let Omega make that choice for herself and let her turn herself in. But for as far as like Wrecker and Hunter, no, like they weren't there for that. So I was expecting there to be kind of like a little bit more conflict, but maybe that's because they just trust him more now. I mean, I know they were a little like Wrecker says something. I believe he was like, I can't believe you let her turn herself in. But then it's like they just moved right on from it after that. I kind of wanted there to be a little more pushback. It just seemed like the whole theme of this episode, going all the way back to these moments that we're talking about, they're just rushing through it, trying to get, even though it's like they didn't know what to do, like you said. But then once they made up their mind, they were like, oh man, this probably would have been better as like 2 episodes, not 1. Now we got to cram everything into 1, because I think like all of these things kind of worked okay, but none of them worked like really well for me. Like so many other things this season has, so many things we've been watching. It's like, this is perfect. This is great. They executed all this so well. And then this episode, for the most part, it's just kind of like, yeah, this was fine.
There were, now I think I feel fonder about this episode than I do the movie, but walk with me for this analogy. Because this episode was the Venom Let There Be Carnage of Bad Batch episodes. And what I mean by that is that movie, like this episode.
I didn't see that coming.
That movie,
I
like
didn't see that
episode,
comparison coming.
It had ingredients. It had ingredients for success to do something really cool. I think Woody Harrelson could have been a great Cletus Cassidy and a great Carnage, you know? And in this, like that scene that you were talking about, Adam, it had all the ingredients for them to have the conversation of they've been from season 2, the Dad Batch, and season 3, Crosshair and Hunter have been bucking heads over being Omega's kind of father figure. And last episode proved she doesn't need that. She's older than them. She can make her own decisions, and she saved this whole town. That scene could have played out for 10 minutes about them arguing about that and coming to those terms, and it could have been great. They have these ingredients, but they just sped up the cook time to get to the end of this season, because I'm sure there's some really big things coming. And that's what happened in Venom Let There Be Carnage, is they had these ingredients and then they went, wait, we're allowed to reference Spider-Man in the post-credit scene. In the 3rd movie, we might be doing some Spider-Man shenanigans. All right, let's get through this as quick as possible. 83-minute runtime or whatever it was. Let's chop it up really quick, get from the beginning to the end so people can see the post-credit scene, and that'll get them into the theater. It was the Venom Let There Be Carnage of episodes. What did you think of that specific scene, Candace? Because I feel like there was so much more that could have been explored.
Oh, definitely. But I do think it doesn't seem like when we get to that scene that it's new information that Omega's taken. I feel like he's like, hey, Omega's gone. So we missed that scene where we had the reaction where they're saying all the curse words in the galaxy to him. But I feel like Crosshair giving up the information about Rampart wasn't about him like getting over his trauma. It was that just finding Omega's worth it. Going back there. That was the only reason. He's like, okay, yeah, my brothers are there, but he's gotten attached to this girl. And he's like, okay, my sister's been taken and she did something very brave and she trusts me to get back to her. And he failed last episode to get the tracker on the ship. So I'm guessing he feels a lot of guilt with that. So.
And again, maybe
I love
that's
his
going
arc.
to be explored more. It's great. It's fantastic. And I don't know, maybe that'll be explored more going forward. Pardon for my hoarse voice to our listeners. I realize this isn't how I regularly sound. I'm a little bit squeaky, but I don't know what it's necessarily from. Maybe it's just new baby not sleeping as much. But anyways, that conversation between Crosshair and Hunter could have been so wonderful and powerful, and instead they just sped right through it because they both failed. Hunter didn't do what he was supposed to do. Crosshair didn't do what he was supposed to do, and so Omega had to shoulder that responsibility to save everybody and make the tough choice. And they kind of just breeze past it. The fun aspect of it, we get Fee rejoining the team. We love Fee. Fee is fantastic. Wanda Sykes was a great addition to the show. Adam, you and I were talking about this a little bit pre-show. Why Rampart? Like, this was just such a weird addition of like, are there Rampart fans out there? Were people out there being like, we need more Rampart, and that's why he needs to be the key to get back to Tantus? Yeah.
Did you see online? It's just like Hot Hauser. It was Hot Rampart, just because the guy grew a beard. That's it. And he's
I missed the thirst
Fandom.
tweets for Rampart. I'm gonna have to go. I was about to say I'm gonna have to go search Rampart on Twitter, but now I'm almost kind of afraid to do that. I may just mute the term Rampart on Twitter now. But
I haven't made it past the tweets yet on my feed of all the thirsting for the new droid in the Star Wars Outlaws video game.
Oh,
it might have been one of us. Might have been me.
There it is. Yes.
It was just like he posted his photo and the meme of like Pam from The Office with the sign hot. That's it.
Yes. That was literally one of the ones in my brain that I was thinking of. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. I like that one for sure. And I'm like, why Rampart?
I mean, your guess is
he's the one who was in charge of clones. Oh,
yeah,
I guess.
I get it. Like, I understand the logistics of it makes sense, but in a sense of like we were talking about, to me, the only reason that Crosshair even missed like the tracking dart at the end of last episode was so we could get Rampart, because there's a world where he just hits the tracking dart and then this episode starts with that conversation that we were talking about, and then they're already on their way. But like I said, I mean, Rampart may have some fans now, he grew a beard and all this kind of stuff. But like in my guess, if you went and asked everybody that watches this show, this is a complete hypothetical. I know a survey of that scale is impossible, but just just roll with me. If you interviewed everybody that watched this show like last week and said, you know what, we've got 3 episodes left, 4 episodes left. If we're going to spin off one episode and just kind of do a little side quest, who's the one character that would make sense? Like, you can't just say Luke Skywalker or something like that. Give me a character that would make sense in this show.
He's 6 months old. Sorry.
That you'd like to see.
Just like Luke Skywalker.
They bring him into that facility where they're keeping all the M count kids, and it's like, we found this kid from the planet with two anyways.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking more like he's like a boss baby, like going through the hallway doing like the droid scene again, you know. Get him a lightsaber, get him going. That's what everyone wants.
Better than Rampart. Sorry, continue, Adam.
No, it's okay. But it's just like, I think if you did like a survey like that, you'd get maybe 0.1% of people would say, you know what, this season just wouldn't be complete without a Rampart episode. Like when he showed up, I was like, wait, we're doing this now. And like, again, the logistics of it makes sense. Like, it's not one of those things where a character shows up that's so obviously some fan service draw. Like, I don't even know which one I would dislike more, where it's like, wait, who this Ahsoka's here doing? Why is she here? This she hasn't even been a part of this, like something like that. But yeah, I mean, it is.
I'm so surprised she has not. Yeah. But okay, so as someone like in the very much like the fandom creation side, like I archive of our own Tumblr, Rampart, like nobody's like, oh my God, I could save him kind of thing, which I see with like villains, especially some of my co-hosts are all the time with the bad boys, you know, they're like, oh no, he just, you know, he can be redeemed kind of thing. I just remember when he got taken down, it was very satisfying. And a lot of us were like, yeah, you know, get him. And even though like the Emperor won either way. So I don't remember anybody being like, oh, poor Rampart, or he could do better, because he has no redeeming qualities. He has not shown anything redeeming, which is one of the reasons people like some villains, is because you see something redeeming in them. This one you just hate.
You're muted, TJ.
Sorry,
oh, good. I was
barking.
Like,
Dogs were barking. We're all having dog issues today. We get it. I legitimately had to, like, at the beginning of the episode, I had to do a quick Google to remind myself who he was, and then obviously I read it and I went, oh yes, of course. But the quick, like, you brought up cheap fan service, Adam. I actually wanted that so bad when Rampart got introduced, because I'm sitting there looking, is that Melch? Is that Melch with Rampart? Am I getting Hondo in this episode? And I got so excited that may be Hondo's little friend Melch, the little piggy guy, and therefore Hondo could be coming in this episode. And he is my favorite gray area sub character in Star Wars history. And so I was really hoping we could get him this episode. It didn't happen. I was sad. But the big thing that they kind of confirmed this episode was what they talked about last episode, and they dove into it a little bit with the Ventress episode. Does Omega have a high M count? What's going on with her M count? And it's what it is. It's not the M count specifically. It's how her DNA binds the M count together and can replicate it going forward. Adam, this is kind of what we had been speculating. Another reveal that I felt like they relied on a little bit this episode, but didn't really hit that hard for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, watching this again, I rewatched this episode today, and like an hour before we started, and I wasn't that like I'm still concerned about Omega being back at Tantus, and I feel bad about it. But all this kind of stuff, you know, we've already. I wonder if it would have served the story better. And I'm not to do the like I could write this, but that's not at all what I'm doing here. But I was wondering today if, like, because, you know, when we first got introduced to the vault, like these kids in the vault a couple episodes ago, I think it was 3 episodes ago, whenever it was, that was like a really big deal. And I almost feel like it kind of undercuts like Omega. Like if we were seeing it for the first time and Omega was seeing it for the first time, like together, because she was clearly shocked. She was like us like 3 weeks ago when we saw it for the first time. She was stunned. So we were kind of like, oh, we're back here again. Like this makes perfect sense. I know they were going to bring her here, but we're back here again. So I'm like, I agree with you. And I was almost wondering, man, should they have kept that from us like a little bit longer? But I mean, that's one of those things, because then I'm like, well, maybe it wouldn't have hit it. Like, I don't know. I don't have all the answers to this, but I do agree. Excuse me. I do agree with you that it was one of the other things in this episode that felt undercut and kind of underplayed a little bit compared to like the stakes of what it should have been.
I think we needed that episode though, because I think Emery's going to turn. And I think Emery seeing the children like that is
agreed.
Like she's like, okay, my sister, and also Omega coming back too. She's going to be like, nope, I'm out. I'm out, Empire. Oh. So I think that's the reason that episode. But yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Oh yeah, but you're right. It would have been very dramatic to see it through another child's eyes, these children. But that's why I think it was there.
It very much seemed like this is just the dot connecting episode. You know, this is getting everybody where they need to get to for the for the epic conclusion. And maybe they timed it with X-Men 97 because X-Men, they went, oh, this is going to be the X-Men 97 episode that bangs. Let's release 2 Bad Batch episodes last week. They're both fantastic. Let's release both of them last week. Put this kind of quiet one. It wasn't a stinker. It was fine. It was just in comparison to all the great episodes we've got previously this season, it didn't feel as strong. And so maybe they just decided, let's drop this one here. Everyone's going to be talking about X-Men anyways. Bad Batch will own the week again the following week. Candace, did you have any final thoughts from the episode before we transition to X-Men?
I'm interested to see if Rampart actually follows through. I wonder if his need a revenge of the Empire is more than trying to sell out the Bad Batch. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it definitely felt like put all your players on the board kind of episode. Get them all ready to go. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens, and also scared because I'm attached to the characters. It's gonna hurt.
It's exactly like you said. They've been leading up to something big this whole season, but the momentum kind of died with this one. And while we're very excited for the finale, it brought the wind out of the sails a little bit, but that isn't going to change that. It's going to be a very epic, potentially scary and worrisome finale for our wonderful Bad Batch. Let's transition to X-Men 97 as I swap the graphic to the X-Men and Invincible graphic that our wonderful producer Ruben cooked up for us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see that. And if you're watching us on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure you follow the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also see at the bottom of the screen where the Agents of Fandom, wherever you get your socials, at TikTok, at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, at Agents of Fandom on Facebook and Instagram. But this episode of X-Men 97 was something. Before we get into our specific thoughts on it, I want to know, Candace, what have you thought on the season as a whole so far? What's your relationship to the X-Men? Did you watch the original series, etc.?
Yeah, I'm a 90s kid. I watched the 90s TV show on Fox Kids, I think it was. And it's so weird because it feels like going back in time a little bit. It feels like, oh, we can go back to this iteration of the characters. It feels like I'm like, can go back home, kind of. It feels that way. And yeah, I'm wondering, I need to rewatch the original series because I'm like, I don't remember all these really big themes when I was a kid. Or they probably just went way over my head.
Maybe, or you absorb them subconsciously, and that is why you're such a person who is so with it, because we were watching these shows growing up, right? And it was ingraining these positive values in our heads.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely, I'm biracial, so like always knew what racism was growing up. But growing up with like X-Men and gargoyles, like these metaphors for the difference and just people treating you differently and stuff like that just helped me cope with a lot of stuff. So yeah, X-Men, great allegories there. And yeah, I think it helps kids everywhere like understand more.
Adam, we've kind of taken it. The episodes have been great, but they've been on the somewhat lighter side so far, especially last week. We take a trip to Motendo. It's a lot more fun. It's nostalgic with the video games. And my goodness, this week did they just absolutely blow the lid off.
Yeah, I mean, they cranked it up to 11. You know,
okay?
we talked about last week that I didn't enjoy last week as much. I kind of felt similar to it that I felt about this week's Bad Batch episode. Like, I don't think it was a bad episode of TV. It just didn't resonate with me personally as much as like the previous 3 episodes had. But I'm all the way back in. Now, this was another great episode. But the funny thing to me is that, you know, they keep releasing these teasers like the day before the episode drops, kind of teasing what we're going to be doing in this episode, which for people that, you know, watch the original series, they're like I remember the past few weeks, it's like, oh, we're doing Mojo World this week. And then it's like, oh, we're doing Genosha this week. And I'm like, what is that? Like, what are these places and what are these things that you're talking about? But it's been nice, you know, not having that knowledge, kind of exploring all this stuff for the first time, because I don't even know. Like, when I saw the first thing on the rundown is like Genosha equals Krakoa, I was like, that might as well be a foreign language. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah,
what I mean.
that was honestly for me of like this is where I'm gonna remind myself to start talking about Genosha. Like, that was kind of what that meant.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, everything in this episode, from like the allegories, especially Magneto's line about like the leaders and the terrorists, I think was just one of the most well written and then well delivered lines in the entire ever. I was watching this, I don't even remember exactly what I was doing. I remember I was kind of moving around. I was watching on my phone, and like when that like I like stopped and like paused and rewound, and my jaw was, I was like, hey, did he really say that? Like, the parallels there to what's going on in the world now, like that's like some like serious heavy shit right now. Like, they're really doing this. This is so far from just being like an animated kid show. It's incredible. But yeah, they, you know, like I said, they lost me a little bit last week, but I'm all the way back in now. Even though I'm not catching and picking up on all the references like I think a lot of the OG fans are, but I'm still having a great time.
And it's interesting that you brought up the teasers that they've been dropping, because they did just drop another teaser for the second half of the season that, wow, did it look exciting, revealing some potential things. I'm not going to bring it up just in case there's some of those that want to go in blind going forward, but I will just reference, I chatted with Marvel Studios head of television, streaming, and animation, Brad Winderbaum, in advance of X-Men 97, and he said, much like the original series, this will feature plenty of exciting cameos, and we got a little bit of a tease of that in the new featurette that they dropped us. We also got the director of some episodes, the head writer of the series, Bo DeMaio, who was allegedly let go randomly. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows what the allegations could be, but he was let go from the series. He kind of came back out of nowhere. He had deleted all of his socials. He's back on social media now. And he's been talking about the episode. And he brought up how, like, this was an episode that this was the episode that he pitched for the series. This was the episode that he wanted to do because, like so many 90s kids, the X-Men, the animated series, it was safe. It was home. You know, we grow up watching this. We feel okay. We feel happy. And we're going to school. Everything's normal. We can go to the airport. We can just hop right on a plane. And then 9/11 happens. And then all of these other school shootings and various things. He brought up a nightclub where there was a homophobic, I don't know the full story, so I don't want to butcher it, but he brought up a nightclub where
was it Pulse?
There was, yes.
Pulse, yes, yeah.
Yes.
I'm in Orlando.
So. Okay, there, yeah. And he brought up how he frequently went there, and that was like a safe place where he felt happy and he could go to, and then it was ruined. And that's where he brought up this thought for Genosha, where at the beginning of this episode, it's happy, it's free. We see the statues of Magneto and Charles in harmony, and mutants are happy and accepted and in a place where they feel comfortable. And that eventually gets ruined. But what was your, sorry to bury the lead, but what was your thought, Candace, when you see this new Genosha? Because Gambit kind of says to us off the bat, like, ooh, they did some renovations since the last time I was here.
Yeah, it was nice to see, but whenever anything's too happy and anything like this, you're always like, what's the catch? You know? So I don't know. Some of the stuff it keeps hitting too close to home. It's the same like issues I had like watching Andor. I was like, this is Star Wars, but it's making me uncomfortable. But yeah, it was a great episode. And
sorry.
Oh, I really love the Ace of Base Happy Nation song playing. I laughed so hard because I remember my dad playing that like Ace of Base CD all the time.
Adam, what were some of the parts of Genosha that really hit for you? Because I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, Madeline Pryor is on the council. Oh, Nightcrawler is here. We get to see Emma Frost. We see Sebastian Stan, Kevin Bacon from First Class. We see Banshee. We see Moira McTaggart. All these different X-Men First Class people. What were some of the parts that stuck out from you for someone who didn't watch the original animated series? Were there any of like, hey, I know that character, that's getting me fired up bringing in?
Yeah, there was some, because while most of my stuff I'm familiar with the X-Men is the live action movies, I've still like I haven't played things like Marvel Snap and Marvel Strike Force. Like I'm familiar with some of the costumes. I may not know the lore, the powers, anything behind the characters, but when I see some of these characters, like I knew that was Sebastian Shaw as soon as I saw him. But I'm not like, oh man, that's Sebastian Shaw. He's here because this and it means this and that. Like I'm not at that level where I'm putting together those connections, but it's still cool to me to see the characters. The only one, I mean, it was great to see Nightcrawler too. That's just he's one of those characters. I just love his powers. And like Candace was saying, seeing all these mutants together and everybody being so happy was great. But then I had the same thought. I was like, oh man, they don't do stuff like this unless something bad is about to happen. So I was immediately scared. And I was like trying to not get attached to any of the mutants and everybody having such a great time that I was seeing. I was like, let me just focus on the story and everything that's going on. But like the only one that stood out to me when they kind of got into the council room that I had no idea. I think he was wearing the green and the yellow. Like that was the one that I have no idea who that was. Still don't even know who that was. But everybody else, mostly from like, it's funny because I actually just rewatched First Class, I think like a week ago, because that's one of my favorite X-Men movies. I was going to kind of try to do a little X-Men movies rewatch in chronological order instead of like release order. And so I started with that one, and I haven't had a chance to go back and do anything since. But that was the only one for me that I didn't. It's almost like learning all this stuff for the first time and like not having the same familiar. Like other people, it's like nostalgia, but for me, it's just like learning and being introduced to something new that I also love. I feel like how a lot of people probably felt when they were watching this, like the 90s series for the first time. It's kind of how I feel now. And I'm excited to go back and rewatch the 90s series after this. But I'm kind of waiting until this is over to go back and revisit that because I don't want to kind of get both of these intertwined and then be comparing one or the other. I'm trying to just kind of stay focused on this. But yeah, I mean, it's like watching everything unfold for the first time. And I feel like how people must have felt watching it for the first time in the 90s.
It's so funny how both of you had that same thought of like, it's too happy. The shoe's going to drop. Something bad's going to happen. And I think because I've been so sleep deprived the last couple days with just, new baby keeping me up, that I'm sitting there like, this is nice. Look at all these happy people. This is lovely. And it's just like, I'm usually such an overanalyzer. And I just like, it just didn't clue in.
It got you.
It was just like, wow, look at this great new place that they put together.
You're why they do it like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I did get really I got distracted when like Magneto and Rogue were dancing, and I was just like cracking up at them like fly dancing, and I was just like, I was giggling like I was like I was a child back in the day. I was like, oh my god, what are they doing? Kind of thing. And that distracted me enough. Then I was like hearing Cable and I was like, oh no. He doesn't come unless something bad's happening.
Yeah, unless shit is about to hit the fan. But let's go back to that because there is a lot of romance this episode with two triangles kind of going at the same time, which is the most classic of X-Men. We get the typical Cyclops, Jean, Wolverine. In the movies, it's very Wolverine focused. They want us to cheer for Wolverine. In this, right after, Jean goes out after her little dream, figuring out what's going on. She goes in, she kisses Logan, and he says, "Hey, no, we don't do that here. It's Scott Summers and Jean Grey. It's how it always has been." Dang, I had it for a minute, then I lost it. That was good. That was about.
Okay,
and then
but it was really a square. The square.
True, because Madeline as well. Yeah,
Yeah, Madeline. Yeah. It's a
Two
weird shape.
genes.
That's
I
all.
love square.
It is. It's a square for that. Then we have the triangle with Gambit, with Rogue, with Magneto. I want to know your take on this. We brought it up with Arzu mentioned she very much is shipping the Rogue and Magneto. I want to know your thoughts on it. I want to know your thoughts on the square and the triangle. Break this down for me, starting with the two genes, Logan and Scott.
Okay. Well, I lost a lot of when he refused to go with the second gene to say goodbye to their son. So Scott is I'm mad at him. So I think he should get nothing. He should be a
where do you stand on the the dream thing?
That really
because that threw me off. I didn't like them commute Madeline and Scott communicating mentally.
Yeah, I don't think he can be blamed for that because everyone else was fooled too. But yeah, like because of the movies, you're like, I mean, it's like Wolverine, like he's like the bad, go. But yeah, I don't know. It's messy. But at the same time, like Wolverine's like 100 years old. Aren't you tired of this? Like
I saw a lot of tweets after that it was like, finally the X-Men's most crucial issue can finally be solved. Jean will no longer have to choose between Wolverine and Scott. Each can have a gene. One gene can go with Wolverine, one gene can go with Scott. The genes can choose, and both of the guys will be happy. But Adam, I want to know your take on the like. And then, sorry, well, the ADHD got the best of me there. I'll return back to Candace for the Magneto, Gambit, and Rogue conversation because I just kind of went all over the place there. But anyways, Adam, what's your take on the fight and the conflict through all of this? Because Scott is chatting with Madeline about their son. Jean is trying to figure out her memories, and Scott's not even there to talk about her because he's still thinking about Madeline. But he also just lost his son. This is a difficult situation. I don't know where I'm going and what I want you to figure out, but I want you to put your therapist hat on, your couples counselor hat on, and just give us the best outcome.
Yeah, tell us, break it down.
So to me, I love the love square thing instead of a triangle, and really this whole however many it's like the octodecahedron of fucking and love, because it's just, I cannot keep track of everybody who's involved. When they say the X-Men be fucking, they're right. I had no idea because they tone all this down in the movies. It's not nearly this horny in the movies. And then people say no, the core of the X-Men, the comics, and if they stay faithful to the X-Men they're all horny as hell. They are all horny as hell. And I almost imagine the Jean and Madeline and Scott and Logan situation. You asked me to explain it in a way that makes sense. What I'm going to do is do the opposite. I'm going to explain it in a way that makes it more confusing. I almost view it as more like a love trapezoid, in that Jean and Scott are at the top, right? They're kind of closer together. They're the two dots that are closer together. And then you've got Logan on one side, the side with Jean. Logan is down where it's you get this diagonal line. You follow me? So it's Logan, Jean is connected to Logan and Scott through kind of a roughly equal line, similar to how Scott on the other side is connected to Jean and Madeline through roughly equal. Now we'd have to kind of cut it at the bottom because I don't, at least from my knowledge, I don't think Madeline and Logan have any, they haven't connected or done anything yet. It's been mostly Jean, but then she's a clone. So I'm almost getting in my own head trying to explain and talk about this, but that's how I imagine it as you guys are talking about it. Because it was such a great shout that it's more of a square. And then really, if you put everything all together, it's got 10 points and sides because it's just impossible to keep up with. But I usually am not a fan of this kind of stuff. I don't think superhero stories, especially, often do the love triangle thing well. One of the ones that always comes to mind with me is the Far From Home. I can't even remember the other guy's name, where it's
Brad.
Where it's Peter and MJ, and then there's the Brad. That was the one part of that movie. I love Far From Home, but that was the one part of that movie that I'm just cringing at the whole time. And that's usually how I am with love triangles. But in this, I
But they're
just live for
teenagers.
the. I know, but
Those are
you're
though.
absolutely
These
right.
are grown people saving the
Yeah.
world, thinking with
They
their
gotta let
what's in
off
their
some
pants.
steam.
But they're making big decisions, and they can't figure this out.
And all that pent up anger is clearly getting the best of them because Scott unloads on live TV about how much he hates humans, and it brought up for one of the best moments of the show.
He's
Magneto.
He's the worst. I'm eating him now.
And Magneto again, just bars on bars on bars. Most countries don't let terrorists be their leaders. Yes, but most let their leaders become terrorists. Or I butchered it slightly, but again, just some amazing stuff from Magneto in this episode. You brought up, Candace, that the dance kind of was the one part that really took you out of the episode and like made you feel a little comfort before realizing that shit was going to go wrong. What are your thoughts on Magneto and Rogue in general? And just, I'm watching this episode the whole time, just thinking, Gambit, poor Gambit.
So yeah, I wasn't like comforted by it. I was distracted by it because it was just like so like I did not see that coming. I know that like Rogue and Magneto have a history in the comics, so I wasn't like shocked like some people were who are just familiar with like the TV or movies. And I don't know. It's interesting. It's very interesting. It's that whole like it's that trope of like the woman, the untouchable woman, which I just saw a video on, and it's very interesting. Of like it's usually only women who they can't be touched at all. And the fact that Magneto can touch her, I get it, girl. I get it. 100%. Also, bad boy redemption arc, hot. Get that too. He's got the
they
voice.
Reanimated him twice as hot as five times as hot as he's ever been.
Dude's tall. He's built. He's trying. I get it. But also, Gambit and Rogue are like so cute, and they were definitely like one of my OTPs as a kid because they're just so cute in the series. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I feel bad for everyone involved in that. But yeah, I like that she came to realization. She's like, okay, yeah, it's nice I can hold hands with him. Let's just say that. But there's more than just Sked. Of course, it was too late.
Exactly. And she makes the realization, but doesn't make it in time. And I'm just watching this entire episode being like, Gambit, no. Gambit. Oh, buddy, I'm so sorry. What were your thoughts while you're watching all of this? How did you, finding out that the whole island was going to get blown to shit, Adam, how did you think that arc between the three of them was going to go?
I'm 100% with you in that. I was like, oh, my boy Gambit, you were just getting done so dirty right now. But like, I'm not like, Rogue, what are you doing? Because Candace, like you said, that would be such a difficult thing to not be able to touch the person you love. So then when someone can touch you, I get it. It makes perfect sense. But it's also so hard for Gambit to have to watch that because there's nothing he can do. So it's like, not only is he not able to like love he's got to watch somebody else do something that he just is completely incapable. There's no personal growth. There's nothing he can do to get to that level. It's just like they are molecularly constructed different to where Magneto can touch her and he can't. There's nothing he can do to change. And that's like, I'm with you. I don't have much else to add because it's so hard to watch that. Because I mean, this is my only, Gambit's not really, I think the only live action movie he's in is X-Men Origins Wolverine. And that even seems like a very kind of different
Tim Riggins.
Like, that doesn't seem like the version that we're getting now is like completely different. Like he just didn't have quite as much charm or that, like all that stuff. So this is like my introduction.
In Deadpool and Wolverine.
Now that would be I'm all on. But if they want to do that, I'm on board. But yeah, seeing as how like this is the first time that I've kind of been introduced again. But I like it. I love AJ Lucasio. I believe is the guys who's voicing Gambit. He's doing a great job. I'm all the way in. I bought into Gambit's charm, but I feel so bad. It's so hard watching this from his perspective because it's like helpless. There's nothing he can do. And he's also, it's like watching, it's like the you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. And it's like, if Magneto is the guy, Yeah, that she's telling you not to worry about.
Yeah.
You know you need to be worried because, I mean, holy shit. They're like, you have so much to worry about.
So that scene, I forget what episode it was, when it's like she goes to his office, and I was like, are they doing this? Oh my God, they're doing this. Because I can't believe I'm like, this kid show, right? Like, what's this age again? You know, these are some big ideas and big, thoughts.
And Gambit drops the Queen of Hearts. Just
Oh,
magnificent. Great stuff. Candace, are you an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. person? Have you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Only the first season.
Okay. There is an arc where I'll just briefly reference it, that what this really reminds me of, because Adam, you as soon as I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I swap my co-host again to Garrett, because that's I would talk
I'll never
about
be
that
good
with.
enok, but it's okay. It's okay.
You will be as soon as you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
alternate, yeah.
You're the Gambit to the Magneto.
Except Magneto's never here in this case. It's just...
There's an arc in season 3 where Simmons is on another planet. She's trapped there, and a guy named Will helps her stay alive. And eventually Fitz brings her back, and Simmons is torn because she loves Fitz and appreciates everything he's done, but also loves Will because he's great. And he also helped keep her alive on this desert alien planet. And that does remind me a lot of the Magneto and Gambit situation, because it's like you said, Adam, we're watching it and we're like, Gambit, I feel so sorry for you. But you're not watching it being like, damn it, Rogue, fuck you. You're like, Rogue, I get it. Rogue, everything you're doing makes so much sense. And that honestly makes it hurt more when you can't be mad at anyone. When it's just like, this is just unfortunate. I'm sad for my friends that this is happening.
I'm a little mad at Magneto. I'm like, take your sexiness somewhere. Like, let them be together and take your sexiness somewhere else and just let somebody
getting
else
the girl coffee. Like, her boyfriend's like right there, Magneto, and knowing how she takes it too. Damn, dude. Okay, that's hot. That's all I'm saying. That's hot. He remembers how she takes her coffee. He's just adding to the list.
Sort out some polyamory business where you have an arrangement.
Rogue has 2 hands. She can keep one clubbed, the other one not clubbed.
Keep one clubbed.
It's fine.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic. Adam,
that's a lot of our After Dark episodes.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love it. Our thing for a while was like we were bringing on. We had a stretch where we were bringing on a lot of our friends from comicbook.com, specifically from Phase Zero. So Jamie Jirac, Aaron Perrine, and Jenna Anderson, I think, kind of came 3 weeks in a row at one point. So we made it our mission to basically say all of your favorite hosts, all your favorite podcast hosts from podcasts where they're not allowed to swear, we bring them on and we get them to say fuck. Get them to talk about dirty things because they aren't allowed to do that on their company ones, and we bring them in here to do that. And so that's the one benefit of not having an age restriction, or having an age restriction on the show, is we get to talk about whatever the hell we want. And if it goes sideways, that is completely allowed. But Adam, blink and you'll miss a moment. I'm curious if you saw it prior to the rundown, because I would have missed it if Ava wouldn't have yelled it out to me. The Watcher was in the sky this episode.
I completely missed that. I saw it on the rundown. I literally just now. I always kind of glance through the first couple of things on the rundown, and I'm like, okay, yeah. Once I get into the rhythm and I know what I'm going to talk about, then I know I'll be good. But I usually don't. The last couple of points, because so often too, we end up just going completely off. I know we usually are pretty good about sticking to stuff, but we end up talking about so many different things. So I didn't even see that. And then I was like, oh, the Watcher was in this episode. Huh, how about that? I completely missed it. I'm going to have to go back and watch it now to see if I can pinpoint it and see it. But no, I'm not going to lie and say that I saw it and give any kind of theory, because I completely missed it.
Briefly in the sky as a background to remind us this is part of the Marvel Studios multiverse. Did you catch it when you were watching, Candace?
No, it might have been a time when I was playing with my dog. Which it's been one of those days, because I only was able to watch the episode today, and I am mad at the internet because I found out about the Gambit thing. Or maybe I'm happy to prepare myself. But like, I saw it like briefly, and I was like, no, they wouldn't do that. He's so popular. He's like Gambit. And then I was like, oh no, they did it. and it hurts. But yeah,
It
I would
does.
love if they did a what if and some of these characters interacted with some of the MCU characters. It'd be so much fun, wouldn't it?
That didn't even cross my mind, but
I'm
like,
surprised.
damn, what if like I
You're
don't know how
tired.
to,
You're
again,
tired.
this is
You're
sleep deprived.
tired.
Sleep
It's
deprived.
baby brain. It's baby
I'm
brain.
supposed to be the theory guy. I'm not like that didn't even, but that's brilliant. Like if we get these X-Men in next season of What If, there's no reason for them not to do that. And that's kind of a reminder that they can. It's all owned by the same people now with having the Watcher in the Sky there. And I think, yeah, that's a brilliant idea to bring in the X-Men into season 3 of What If.
They could do what if Rogue realized she had 2 hands?
What if Rogue realized she had 2 hands?
That it has to have an age restriction on it.
And what if the Avengers and the X-Men met and the we see where things go from there, you know?
Yeah, what if the X-Men were around when Thanos?
Just catch your I was sticking with the sexual vibe of things, but that's actually a much better
that too,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah, like I was thinking let's bring Captain America to this group of X women, and let's bring Black Widow to this group of X-Men. Maybe they'll I don't anyways. That's go back to the Thanos idea
that would Captain America. I don't know his sensibilities.
That's why it's so great, because the X-Men could corrupt him. Anyways.
He would be like, "Oh my god, there's so much fucking in this house." And he lives with Tony. You know,
oh, I gotta stop coming up with ideas right now because yours just continuously are all better than the ones that I'm throwing out there, and so we gotta
I've
write
gotten
some
a
of
REM
these
cycle,
downs.
which I'm guessing y'all haven't in that house. So
very true, but we need to be writing some of these ideas down and shipping them to Marvel Studios because we definitely
or just like submitting them to Archive of Our Own. You know,
yes,
one
yes.
of the others. It will get done.
Get some spicy comic panels going. But anyways, shit hits the fan. All the goodness stops because shit hits the fan. I had a few different things on here, like as I made the rundown as I was watching the episode. So I'm sitting there like, you know, Dr. Cooper, she's fishy. Could she be Mystique? Oh, you know, Queen Rogue. What's going on with this? Are Magneto and Rogue gonna rule Genosha? And then none of it matters 10 minutes later because Godzilla Sentinel shows up. And it's the biggest Sentinel we've ever seen, blowing shit everywhere. A lot of notable deaths. We've referenced the Gambit one already, but before we even get there, before we even get to Gambit and Magneto, because Magneto also got his ass vaporized. We think.
But why does it feel like... Yeah, that's the thing is like, that one felt like, Is he? Well, Gambit felt very like, yeah, because Rogue's holding him.
Mm-hmm.
That felt more real and definite.
I even watching it a second time thought I might have even seen like a quick teleportation poof from Magneto the second time too. And so I'm not positive on that one. But Madeline Pryor, gone, dead. We've talked about her. There was a huge arc from the first half of the season already, and she's gone. Cable was trying to warn her. Cable was trying to save her. She's gone. Sebastian Shaw is gone. Banshee, gone. And then Magneto vaporized, and so many others. The Morlocks and so many others just absolutely gone. Our sense of safety, our sense of comfort wiped out with all these characters. Gambit is a fan favorite from the original series. Madeline has had the whole start of the series kind of dedicated to her arc. And Magneto, of course, was the one leading the X-Men right now. So, Adam, what were your thought process as you're going through all of this? Did you even notice the first time through that Madeline died? Because I didn't until I saw Bo DiMaio tweet about it. Do you think Gambit and or Magneto are gone? And what is your thought process as you see Godzilla Sentinel wreaking havoc on Genosha?
So I did notice that Madeline died, but for the Magneto and Gambit thing, I don't think Magneto's dead, but I do think Gambit is dead. Like if they did, because you don't go to those kinds of lengths to establish that and then like walk it back, because then it's like, why did you give us all like the last minute of this episode? Because that really hit that even as not having that pre-existing relationship with these characters, that hit. I was like tearing up and getting super emotional. I was like, no, wait, what? This is so fucking sad. Like, I just wanted you guys to be together and like try to work this out, and now you can't because Gambit's dead. And I'm gonna get myself worked up again talking about it. So like, then if he just pops back up somehow, or that like then that just unless they, I mean, the only way they could do it is if like then they got him back to the X Mansion or whatever, and like Hank was working on him, and but even that, then it's like, wait, why was I so upset then at the end if you're just gonna bring him back? It definitely seemed to me like there was some funny business going on with Magneto, like he somehow got out of there, or whether it was Kurt or whether he did some funny shit. I don't know. I'd be surprised if they would kill both of them like that, but it does seem like a way to kind of tell like new viewers like myself and like more familiar viewers like you guys that, hey, like we're not fucking around. We're here to like, we're gonna, this is not like just this little animated kid show where everything's like happy, blah, blah, blah. Like we're gonna kill these kids. Like there's stakes, there's real shit happening here.
No one safe.
But yeah, exactly. And yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Someone said it was like Red Wedding of X-Men.
Right. That's such a great comparison. But I saw the one thing that I will say is funny is that I saw a tweet. Apologies, I can't remember exactly who it was because I've seen so many X-Men tweets. But it was like one of those. It's the same format. It's like if I had a nickel for every time somebody in X-Men 97 was like, "I can't feel you" to something they cared about, I'd have 2 nickels, which is like that's not a lot, but it's like weird that it's happened.
It's weird it happened.
I was like, I don't care that it's happened twice because it hit like a train for me both times. Like I wasn't watching this at all when Rogue said that. Like, wait, that's the same thing Storm said. Why she said? Like, no, I was still just like a wreck watching that guy. But it was still I chuckled at that tweet, but I was like, that didn't take any of the pain away that I've been feeling all day from that. And I'm sad because I really like Gambit. I like spending time with Gambit. There hasn't been like a lot of them in this series, because they're kind of divvying this up among all these different characters. I think they're doing a great job with that, but I really care about everybody so far. Like it wasn't like, well, we hadn't seen Gambit all that much. I don't really care about him. Like I was sad to see him go, but I do think he's gone, and I think it would be a mistake to bring him back because that cheapens the end of this to me. But I don't think Magneto is gone. Whether there was funny business or whether it was his own funny business or whether it was Kurt got him out of there at the last second, I don't know. That would be my guess. That I did notice Madeline Pryor, and I think Gambit's gone, but I think we'll see some more Magneto this season for sure.
As the attack starts, I thought it was so brilliantly portrayed how they had Charles' statue falling right as Magneto was realizing what was going on and what he was supposed to do. And it was kind of like, all right, fuck it. It's done. Kind of like what we've seen happen to him in so many times in the movies, like I referenced last week in X-Men Apocalypse, where he's like, I'm trying to be good, and then they kill my family. Fuck it, I'm killing everybody. That's kind of what the vibe that I got here of like, I'm doing my very best to live out Charles's dream. And then as that statue is falling, that's Magneto's brain going, you know what? Fuck it, I'm done. It's war. What did you think of that, Candace?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I feel like maybe some of the X-Men who were watching back home might change their minds too. Who are like, oh no, let's be peaceful. You're like, well, we lost some of our family. Maybe Magneto was right. I love the sign that said Magneto was right. It just made me think of the Thanos was right mug from Hawkeye. And I'm just like, I mean, Magneto has some points. Not the terrorism ones, but like some points.
Yeah, big time. Were there any of the deaths that were you outside of Magneto and Gambit, of course, that were really like, oh, damn, seriously already? And then do you think Gambit and or Magneto gone for good?
I was really concerned about Nightcrawler, but he seems to be okay. Kurt, he might be okay.
And he also seemed to be very heavily featured in the trailer for the second half of the season.
Yeah, that's good at least. But yeah, that's the one that like I was like, oh, because I had like an emotional, like a childhood attachment to that character. That was really like, oh no. But yeah, I was shocked the number of people they were taking down, and I was reminded of Game of Thrones. They're like, yeah, these could be main characters. These could be all over the theme song, the theme, and no one's safe.
It's going to be really no one's safe, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this impacts Scott and Jean's relationship, going forward with Madeline not there anymore, where this
It's just
brings
a
Cable
triangle
back.
now.
And it just, yeah, exactly, just a triangle now. And to kind of throw out some potential theories about where this could go and maybe how it could be backtracked, whether it be Magneto, Gambit, Madeline, or any of the others, is how did that whole thing start? Well, it was a warning from Cable when he was time traveling, trying to stop it. And so while he got pulled back, we don't know that he might not just try again. Now that brings in a whole multiverse situation into things, because we know that that's how this works with Marvel right now. They're probably not going to just do the whole back in time, it didn't happen thing with Cable, but that is an option. Another one where I started the rundown where Adam brought up how I had Genosha equals Krakoa on there, because in comics, I'm not going to pretend to be an X-Men comic expert. It's the most vast range of comics that is the most difficult to keep up with in all of comic lore. And so a TLDR of Krakoa, it's a place where mutants live in safety and kind of are their own nation. And within this place, they have their own version of the Lazarus Pit, essentially, where they can bring mutants back to life. When they do so, they often have new powers, things like that. Most recent example of this being done in a big way in comics, it's they killed off Kamala Khan in The Amazing Spider-Man so they could bring back Kamala Khan as a mutant and have her be a mutant going forward, just like she is in the MCU, with Aman Vellani writing the book.
I didn't like that.
I didn't like it either. I understand the idea of like, you want continuity of mutant, but if you're doing it, and like Amazing Spider-Man, because it has the most eyes on it, I guess, but it wasn't done well. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, I was just like,
yeah, I did get to chat with Zeb Wells, the writer, specifically about that, and he essentially said like that came from the Marvel higher ups, that decision. But
it feels like it.
Yeah. Still didn't really love how it was executed. But long story short, there are ways to bring mutants back from the dead in Krakoa. Now, it kind of seemed like Genosha is this universe's Krakoa kind of thing. Maybe Genosha, now that it's been destroyed, will develop into Krakoa moving forward. I don't know. But it's definitely, there are ways that they could get funky with the story. And that's not even to mention that Mr. Sinister has been cloning the X-Men, and we don't even know if Jean was the only one he took. Probably because all he cares about is Jean and Scott. His Adam explaining the love square before kind of reminded me of just like, this is probably what Mr. Sinister's board looks like in his home office, where he's got Scott and Jean at the top of the board, and it's just like all the branches of what he could do with Scott and Jean's offspring and genetic code. But there are a lot of different interesting ways that they could take it. And we will be back covering X-Men next week with, I believe the episode should be returning to Storm's arc with Forge, before we get into the final 3 or 4 episodes of the season, where things apparently they're teasing are going to continue to get wilder and wilder and wilder. And we'll be breaking it all down with you every week. We got a very exciting guest joining us again next week. We got friend of the show, author of The Reign of the Reign of the MCU. Do I have it beside me? I was going to lift it up because I thought I had it beside me, but apparently I don't. I do not. Dave Gonzalez coming back on the show to hang out with us as well. So make sure you're tuning in to that one. Before we get out of here, Candace, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a blast. Where can the people find you on socials?
First, I just have a question I just thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll see any of the X-Men 97 in Deadpool? Because we have the TVA, and it's like the multiverse strand.
Wouldn't that be like a classic Deadpool thing for them to do, is when they're looking at the screens from the trailer and it's like you can see the Avengers there, and have Deadpool go, oh, wow, that one's animated. And on the screen, it's like the X-Men 97. Like that seems like a classic Deadpool joke.
I can see him wanting to go there, like pointing at that screen, be like, I want to go there. That looks awesome. And then Matthew McFadden's like, or Mr. Paradise is like, no, we can't. We literally can't do that. But I can see them definitely making a reference, or like, I mean, we maybe not get like a lot, but I can definitely see them doing a reference or something about it for sure.
You guys just got me thinking about Deadpool a lot, of like It's like, what could it be? What could happen?
Lenore Zan
Wait.
shows up in Rogue cosplay, and it's like a it's alternate universe. You can find our most recent interview with Lenore Zan up on the Agents Fandom YouTube page. Shout out to Agent Aisha because she absolutely crushed it at Toronto Comic Con with that interview. But sorry, Candace, continue.
Yes.
Where can the people find you on socials?
You can find me at the geekywaffle.com. That has all our socials. My Twitter is Candace is a Geek, and I'm Candace Call everywhere else.
Thank you again for joining us. Make sure you check out the Geeky Waffle. And Adam and I will be back next week with Dave Gonzalez talking more X-Men 97 and some Bad Batch as well. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. And we will see you next week.